is Karina, this is Creative Everyday Life, and this is the knitting podcast of this channel. Welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you are one of my returning subscribers. I am so happy to see that the channel slowly is growing a little bit. I feel very honored that you wanna watch my videos. It has not been that long since I made the last knitting video, so I have not made a lot in the meantime, but I thought I wanted to get back on track on making one in the beginning of the month so that you can see the update of the temperature blanket more in real time, and I will not get too far behind, hopefully, before I knit the month. I have brought me some notes so I will not forget what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm sitting out here in the sunroom, surrounded by a vine on one side and some trees on the other side as well inside here. Yes, and I brought with me a cup of tea. It is chai latte. It has gotten quite cold in Denmark again. It has been warm for about a month, but somehow the summer seems to be over. I'm just kidding. It has been cold the last week or so, and I'm sure that it will get warmer again, but it has been going from about 25 degrees until now it is about 15, so it's quite a drop, and I'm talking Celsius, but yeah, it went from, I was able to, I'm quite a cold, I freeze pretty easily, so I went from wearing barefoot sandals, shorter leggings and t-shirts and stuff like that, until I'm back in my trusty woolen sweater. So I'm wearing one of the Icelandic sweaters. If I can find the name, I will put it down here. This sweater I have knitted 3 times. One for my husband and one for me, of course, and then I knitted one for a fellow student at the time. It has been a couple of years. Let me just think. I think it was 2019 maybe that I knitted those sweaters, so it has been a couple of years. They're holding up very well. The only issue is that this one has unraveled a little bit, but it's not a lot. So it is a small issue, but not that big. It reminds me that I should show you something that I totally forgot. So the one thing that I wanted to show you when I just remembered after seeing this little tear that I will soon get fixed, was actually a lot bigger tear. So I am living with my husband on a small homestead in Denmark, and we have like, I don't know if you would call it a barn, maybe, but I left my woolen sweater out in the barn, forgot about it, and it took me maybe a month or something to realize that I had forgotten it out there. In the meantime, some mice had found it, and they have made a couple of pretty big holes, and I will show them up here. So there was a big hole in the front, a big hole in the back, and one on the sleeve, or one of the sleeves. And my first thought was, that is too bad, I have to throw it out now. But my second thought was that I didn't have to throw it out, I just have to fix it. It has So it has pretty much always been like a work or comfortable home kind of sweater. Since this is one of the first sweaters that I knitted, I made up the pattern myself, and I have, at this point, I had not successfully knitted after a knitting pattern that someone else had written. So this is quite a few years ago, but let me just think if I can remember. I think it is from 2016 or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it was in my beginning of knitting sweaters journey. I had knitted 1 or 2 sweaters before, so it's not the first sweater that I knitted, but I made up the pattern, and there's a lot of cable in this. You can tell. But since I didn't know anything about sizing and how to write a pattern or read a pattern for that matter, I made it very oversized, especially at the time. It was maybe 2 sizes too big at the time. I have gained a little weight, so now it's still oversized, but it's more like 1 size too much. But I have chosen to fix it quite visibly because I don't have the yarn from back then. But here is the sweater. It has like these cables on the sleeves. As you can tell, I ran out of yarn when I made the sweater in the first place, so I added some black here. Maybe you can't tell. I hope you can't tell that. But if you can tell, that is why I made the black sleeve ends. But yeah, so I have tried to mend them like this. There's one hole right here that I mended as well, and then one on the other side. I actually think that they might be a little bit too visible if you were to go out a lot or something like that. Especially the one in the front. It kind of looks like I dropped something, so I'm turning it the other way. Well, there's not really a bag in the front, but I wore it the first time like this on the front, and it looked like I spilled something on myself, I thought. So I turned it like this, and I thought that that was way better. But yeah, this will be like for gardening and stuff that I will be using this, and maybe I will add some colors or embroider something on it. I'm not quite sure. If you are mending your stuff, do you go for a complete invisible mending? I typically do that, but if I don't have the yarn, then what do you do? Do you normally throw it out, or do you fix it? And if you fix it, what kind of visible mending do you use? So you can write that if you want to. But this is just what I chose for this sweater, and I really love wearing this around the house. It is so comfortable and soft and warm at the same time. It is a very nice sweater. I think it is some kind of wool that I made it from, but it has been a long time and I didn't care much for looking into the kind of wool it was, so I have no idea what it was. It might be superwash, it might not be. I would not buy that today, but if I had some, I would of course use it. I might buy it for socks because they get worn a bit more, but yeah, I'm getting a little bit off track right now, so I will try to go back. So I'm wearing my Icelandic sweater, and I am of course also wearing this small shawl, and this was from Drops that I made it. I really like this, and I might do another kind of at least same size as this one, because I'm getting a lot of use out of this one. So yeah, the next on my list is finished objects, and I have no finished objects. I am working on a lot of different things, but first of all, it has not been a long time since I made the last knitting podcast, but I'm working on a lot of bigger projects, as you will see in my whips. But the one thing that kind of goes under this will be the test knit that is just started. It means that the pattern is written, but the test knit might give me some changes. I have already made some changes because when I translated it to English, there was some things that I wrote confusing, so I have changed some of that. But other than that, I am looking forward to see more of my test knitters work. I have seen from one of my test knitters, she has started to make one of the sleeves, and the yarn is beautiful, and yeah, it was just such a delight. I was moved to tears when I saw it. I kept them in, but I almost cried because I was so honored that she was knitting my pattern. And I believe it was like pink purpley kind of colors, but it was very beautiful. So I am so excited to see more of the test knits. But if you are new on the channel, this is the pattern that I made and that is going to be test knitted. So I made it for my husband, but some of the ladies are knitting it for themselves. I don't think there are, well, maybe some sweaters, but a lot of sweaters, it doesn't matter if it's for women or men. I think they are kind of unisex, or what you would call it. But this is the pattern that I made, and talking about the pattern, I have been very much doubting what I should call it. I'm still a little bit unsure, but I think that the one that I'm going with is, I got a lot of very good suggestions underneath the last video, so you can go and see them if you want to. But one, I'm assuming a lady called Tina Turner, some numbers, I'm guessing a fan, or maybe she just is called that, who knows, but suggested it to be called Toolbox, since I was inspired by the bits called Talks for this pattern part that is also repeated on the sleeves and on the body down here. That was inspired by the Talks, and this up here is also inspired by tools. So the name Toolbox I thought might be the one that I'm going with. The only question I have in my head containing that is whether I should call it Toolbox, which is English, or I should call it Værktøjskasse or Værktøj, which is English for toolbox and tools. So yeah, I am still figuring that out, mostly because I will release the pattern both in English and in Danish, but I think most of the ones who will see it will be English speaking or know English very well. And it's not uncommon that Danish pattern designers make a name that is in English, just because, well, we do that a lot in Denmark, call things the English name and just keep it. English is pretty normal for most Danes to know and to speak, so I think that I might go with the English, but let me know if you would prefer the Danish wording. I will make it into a hashtag so that hopefully we can see it on Instagram or stuff like that. That would be super cool. yeah. But the testnet has just started, and I am very excited to see the process and to see the finished objects of my testknitters. So yeah, if you are late to the party and you really want to go be a part of this testnet, you can go check out the video that I talked about it. It has started, but I have given the testknitters 2 months. It's okay if it takes a little bit longer, but I would like to see if any of the math is holding. I have a lot of the larger sizes. I have no one testing the Danish pattern. I only tested it myself. So if you speak or read Danish, that would be a very nice thing. But other than that, if you want to knit some of the smaller sizes, feel free to contact me. All of the information is in the video. I will not be able to give you any yarn or anything like that. I will only be able to give you the free pattern and help along the way if there's any misunderstandings or anything. Yeah, that was it about the testknits. So I will just put it up here to look gorgeous behind me. Yes, let's talk about work in progress, also called WIPs. So first of all, I have been spending most of my knitting time working on a t-shirt. I started it just around the time of the last knitting podcast. I'm not sure if I had cast it on or just had the yarn, but I am working. It's not my pattern, but so I'm knitting this this t-shirt that has some lace pattern in the bottom of the sleeves and on the body, and I am very excited about this pattern. So this is how far I have gotten so far. So there is a lot of stocking stitch and not much else. There are some increases, and that was actually kind of funny because it was increasing 6 places, right? Yeah, 6 places. So 2 here on the front part, you might be able to tell, then 2 on the back, and then 1 on each shoulder. And I have not increased like that before. I actually found it very flattering when I'm knitting. I'm very curious to see how it will look when I put it on at some point. I have not done that. I have not done that since the color. I think I tried it on when it was just starting because I thought it looked a little too white, but it's fine. But I'm very excited to see how this is turning out. It takes me forever to knit because it is a lot thinner yarn that I'm used to, and I found it super boring to knit something without what's it called? Well, anything interesting going on. Anyways, I prefer to knit stranded color work that I find very funny. I find it very satisfying to knit and interesting and stuff like that. But yeah, sometimes you just have to knit the things that you really want to own instead of just knitting what you really want to knit. So I'm trying to balance that a little bit. I'm also knitting it top down, which I normally would not do because of a lot of reasons. But typically the most interesting part is on the yoke piece, like this one. It is the yoke that is the most interesting. So I like to knit from the bottom up just to have the motivation to go up to the interesting part. it is kind of working with this too, because I'm knitting as much as possible to get down to the fun part of the lace. And I actually think I have made quite a big progress, since I don't think it is interesting at all to knit on. So we will see when it will be done. I hope it will be done in the next knitting podcast so that you can see it. But at least I hope to get to the lace part before that, because yeah, it will be so beautiful when it's done. And when the weather comes back, hopefully, then it will be very nice to have something that I knitted myself that I can wear. So yeah, so that is how far I have gotten on this t-shirt project. The one thing that I was working on before I started that was this Icelandic sweater. I'm not even sure that I have knitted anything, maybe a couple of rounds since the last time, but it has been laying still because I'm really trying to get the t-shirt done. I think that I have a lot of woolen sweaters, and I have only one t-shirt that I actually wear that I knitted. So this will take a back seat, even though I really want to knit the yoke part of it. Yeah, so still holding on there, but I'm actually keeping it in the same. I have this project bag that my mom gave me a couple of years ago. She bought it on a knitting festival on Fanø, that is not very far from where I live, and I think it is so cute. So it has like pockets inside, it has pockets on the back here, it has even a pocket on the bottom so that you can put in things here if you wanted to. And then this embroidered, it is machine embroidered, but it's kind of cute, right? So this I am using, and I keep everything like extra yarn in here and tape measures or stuff like that. So it is very nice, but I'm using this when I'm going to work or anywhere with my knitting, and then I can put this with me. So I put this inside just in case I need a break from the other one, or I run out of yarn, then I can just continue. So all of this is in my knitting bag. Just a side note, going back to this one, I bought these wires, cable strings, I am not sure what they're called, quite a while ago, and I tried them and didn't like them at all until I used them for this one. And this actually makes sense, because when I'm going from the bottom up, you are only having a few stitches under the arm that you put on a wire, and when I use bulkier yarn, it doesn't fit with the needles to do this, at least not with the ones that I bought. So it has just been a headache, and I was actually deciding not to use them ever again. But then I started to knit this top down. This is thinner needles, so it fits way better. It gets on easier. I will not say that it is easy, but it is easier because it fits better. And I have a lot of stitches, as you can tell, that is resting here. So yeah, I know that you can use a lot of other things. Right now I'm not using interchangeable wires, but if I were, it would make more sense to have one just resting that you can just keep on knitting and you don't have to do any hassle. That is actually what I would recommend. And other than that, I have used a cotton string for years, especially when it's just under the armpits. I find that's way easier. But yeah, that was a total side note. I need to get some of this tea before it gets cold. The last work in progress I have, if you have been here for this year, you will probably have guessed it, and it is my temperature blanket. You can also peek it a little bit here, the bottom of the screen. But if you're new, I'm knitting a temperature blanket as a gift for someone, I will not tell who. And I am choosing the highest temperature of the day in the area that this person lives this year, and in Denmark. And every day it will get one row of knit stitches, knit from one side to the other, and I will leave the ends out in the side here and make tassels of them. So I will only have to purl every other row, the first and last 5 stitches, but other than that it will just be knit stitches all the way through. I am using a wool yarn and from Drops. It's called Alaska, and this is my chart. So I have chosen the color ranges. I have 10 different colors. And then I have a gray one, light gray, to be the divider between the months, so I can easily tell which month is which. And I'm also coloring it in here, just to know how far I have gotten. And all of this is also in an Excel spreadsheet. Well, it's not an Excel, it is Open Office, but they have the same kind of colors and stuff that you can do in Excel. So I write the temperature here, and then I mark the color, and depending on how cold it is or how warm it is, the color will change on which color the row will have. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, I have now made the first 5 out of 12 months, so almost halfway on this temperature blanket. It is very exciting, and you can really start to feel the size of it. It is a small blanket, but I think this will be such a cute and comfortable blanket to have and just to wear over your knees or wrap around you or something on colder days. But anyways, let's check out these colors. So January is always the hardest for me to show because I made this edge and it just keeps curling up. And it's quite annoying since I made the edge to make it not curl up, and somehow I failed. But yeah, so January is up to here. It is the coldest month we have had. It is the only one with black. There. And then we have February here. It's a little shorter, but still cold, and not as cold as January, but still cold. Then we have March. March has been primarily cold, but there has been one day that it was a little warmer, and I got the first brown color here. Then we had April, and April is up to here, and April has been a little warmer again, but still a lot of blue. And then we have had May, and May have been 100% brown except for this, it was only one day of yellow where it was really warm. So this was such a fun month to knit. Not only was I getting a little bit tired of knitting blues, but it has just been such a fun thing to knit so many of the brown colors. I am at the moment really in love with browns and green colors, so yeah, it is really nice to have some of that too. So, and I can just say that the yellow color is 25 to 29 Celsius, and we had 25 degrees that day in that area. I'm sure that there are other places in Denmark that was warmer. I was actually convinced that we would have a lot more yellow because I thought it was a very warm month, but the place that this person is living, it is said to be only one day that we got that high of a color. But it is getting so beautiful. So well, I can't wait, but I am looking very much forward to giving this away in January when the year is over. I think I'll be giving it away January or February, but around that time. So if you're not into temperature blankets, I will say maybe reconsider it. I think that a lot of people don't like it for a couple of reasons. One thing is that it will of course be something you will be working on an entire year, and you will not be able to finish it off very fast. But there is a couple of things that you can do to make it more fun. The one thing is that if you are sick and tired of have to do anything every single day for a year, you can do like I do and group them together, then do for a week or 2 weeks or even a month in like a few days or a few hours, depending on how fast you're knitting. And and of course how big your blanket is. You can also wait till the year's over and then do the whole year in however long time that will take you, instead of doing it every single day. But I was actually thinking that you could do this in a lot of different ways. You could do it also where it was not about temperature, but maybe how much it has been raining, or it could be like your mood throughout a year. It could be a lot of different things. Maybe even like if you are a big reader, you could do a knitted blanket or crochet, where depending on how many pages you have been reading that day, that you will get different colors. You could do this in a number of different kind of ways, but I really like the temperature idea, and I think it could be fun to do something like that every year, just to see how different and or similar the years are. I had been thinking of doing like a cross stitch version where you have like 1 year is a row, then next year, and then you will over a long period of time be able to have this ginormous square where all of the years will be. That could be really fun. If you're able to look back in time, you can also do memorable years and stuff like that. So I'm using an app a weather service from the Danish weather site that is called DMI, DMI in English. I was just thinking if I know what that stands for. I think it stands for Dansk Meteorologisk Institut or something like that. So the Danish Weather Institute thingy. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking of the spot right now. But anyways, I'm sure that wherever you live, there must be some kind of weather services that you can check the weather in. We only have a few years back. I was able to get the weather from the year that my husband and I was married, and I made a scarf of that in January. Well, I started it in December, I think, but you will be able to see it in the first podcast, maybe the first 2 podcasts of this year. But I was trying to go back and see like the year I was born or maybe earlier, but I can't get the information that far back. I think it's only 20 years back or 15 years back, I'm not sure. So that is too bad, but maybe if you like have kids or something, you could do their birth years, or if you got married in the recent years, or maybe your weather app goes further back, that could be quite cool. Or maybe you have the year you graduated or moved to your house or anything like that. There's a lot of options, so yeah, I just think they are very fun. Yeah. Anyways, that is all of the knitting content that I have. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was actually, it was garden and books. So the last two things, and you can see the timestamps in the bottom if you are not interested, but while I am just sitting here knitting and chatting a little bit, I wanted to talk to you about books. I don't know if you are readers or if you prefer to watch TV series or movies and then knit at the same time. I actually find it quite relaxing to read books when it's a physical copy. I have been reading a couple of ebooks, and there are good and bad things about ebooks. The good thing is that sometimes I'm able to knit while I'm reading. You can of course do that as well if you are listening to an ebook, but when I have it up on a screen, I can put on some music, read, and then sit and knit. I have done that a little bit, but it takes a little bit more concentration than if you are just reading a book, sitting in a sofa and cozying up under a blanket. I just don't think it's as comfortable. Part of it is, of course, that I don't have like a tablet or Kindle or any of those devices that I can read them on, so I will be sitting at my stationary computer. What is it called in English? In Danish it's called stationær, which means you can't move it, but I think it's called stationary in English maybe. But I have two screens because I have been gaming a little bit World of Warcraft in my time, and I also edit these videos, and I am painting digitally. If you see my logo, I made that in Krita. Krita is it is a free software where you can draw and stuff like that. I really like it. I was going to say prefer it, but I have not much of other experience. I did try a long time ago. I think I tried Photoshop, but it had a very steep learning curve, and Krita is not the easiest program to use. Paint is of course way easier, but you have no layers and not a lot of brush options and stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, I do use my computer for a lot of things, and that is where I have been sitting and reading my ebooks when I have not been able to have them in physical copies. So it is to me like a second best. But I don't know if that, well, I'm sure there are others that feel the same way, but I really prefer to hold a book in my hand when I'm reading it. And there's just something nostalgic about it. I do like that it is not as bad it doesn't feel as hard for the eyes to read on paper than it does to look on a screen. And I can move my finger across the page when I'm reading. I'm reading quite slowly. I am dyslexic, and I do think it is a little bit tiring to read. but I really like when it's a story where I forget I'm reading and I just dive so deeply that I forget everything around me. I don't know if either of you out there have the same experience, that sometimes a book just can transport you to somewhere else where you can think differently. Not differently, but I don't know, I just think that there are thoughts that I can like get to make sense in my head when I'm reading. I don't know how to explain that in a better way. I do read a lot of fantasy. Of course, I love Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Those are classic. And if you are reading some of those, there's just simple things about life and death and friendship and stuff like that that makes more sense to me in some way than reading other things. But the series that I'm reading right now, I'm actually wanting to talk to you about them because nobody knows about these books, it seems like, but maybe you do in other countries, or just because, I don't know. But it is this series that I'm only able to get some of them in Danish, which is very sad. But let me just check what it's called in English, because this is translated to Danish in the early 90s. Yeah, 1990 this was translated, this one. No, sorry. This was translated in 1993 and written in 90. But it is based on this series. What is it called in English? Okay, I'm not sure what this series is called in English, but the first book is called Dragon Wing in English. I only have the second half of it because in Danish somehow they took like one book and then divided it into two, and they have done that with most of the books in this series. So there are 7 books in English and 13 in Danish, and I don't get why they have done that, other than this is of course easier to go through than if it had the double size. But why would you do that? No. Well, anyways, I don't get that. But they chosen to translate it, and I read these as a teenager and really loved this series. In Danish is called Dødens Port, which means the portal of death, and it's called something similar to that in English. My dog wants to get in here, so. Dygtig! Må det være godt? Må det være godt? Må det være sød? Yes. So this is my dog Charlie. He wanted to be part of this. He was wanting to go in through the other door, but I have this one open, so isn't he cute? Anyways, I was talking about the series that I'm reading again, and I don't remember what it's called in English, but in Danish it's called Dødens Port, which means the portal of death. I think it's, or the gates of death. I'm not sure what it's called in English, but I will of course read it down here. It is written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. So you can probably tell from the names that they are not Danish, but yeah, this is not the first book, but there are the first book I have not been able to find, so I wrote it. I was reading that as an ebook, then I bought the physical copy for the second book, or the second half if you are English speaking, and then I have for the second English, or the 2 halves, and only the half again, because this is one book and then the other one I was not able to find, and then I got the second the fourth book I got the 2 books from. So I got 7 out of 13 books when I bought this. I even bought it from the publisher, but somehow it was not able to, they were not printing it anymore, and I just don't get that. I might just be the only fan out here, I'm not sure, but I really like this series. Some of the Danish artworks doesn't make so much sense, but anyways, I was just looking for which one was the best one. This might be the prettiest one. But anyways, this series I read as a teenager, fell in love with it, and actually didn't return to it other than I have been thinking about it for years. And when I finally decided now it was time and I wanted to buy them all and then read them all, and then I can't do it, but that's beside the point. So I have been reading the first 8 Danish books, or the first 4 English books, and now there are no more physical copies left, so that is a little bit sad, but I'm reading it as an ebook. I can read that on my computer, but I'm actually thinking if I should buy them in the English version, so at least I will have the story and I will one day read them in English. It's a lot harder for me to read things in English because, well, partly because of my dyslexia, but it is, I'm sure if any of you speak more than one language, you know that the native language you have, that you see every day, is just a lot of bit, in my case, I think, easier than the second language. But I think it's pretty normal that people that are dyslexic have a harder time reading in their second language. But if you have not checked out this series and you love to read, I would very much recommend it. It is it's a fantasy series that is young adults, so there's not any, if you're a Christian, there's no scenes you have to completely skip, because some books I will not read because there are chapters where it's not for me. But it is not like a children's book like Narnia or something like that. There are more death and stuff like that than in Harry Potter, even though that gets quite dark in the end. I think maybe more like the later Harry Potter, and then mixed with Lord of the Rings, because there's a lot of world building in these books, and I really like it in this series. But some series it can be annoying, of course, but I think the way that they have done it in this series has been brilliant, and you keep being engaged because you're following people that you want to hear what's going on with. But essentially it's of course a fantasy, but it is where there are different fantasy species, like humans and elf and dwarves, and then there are 2 other magical species, and I'm not quite sure if they're called the same in English, but they're called Sartaner and Patryner in Danish anyways. But this is 2 kind of rivaling magical beings, and the one part, Sartaner, they destroyed the world, so it is kind of low fantasy and kind of sci-fi in some way, because it is we have the Earth as it is today, and after a giant war, I'm assuming nuclear from the descriptions, but after that, and after some problems within these different species, the Sartaner, Saracens maybe, They destroyed the world, departed it into 4 different kind of world. That is one with air, and one with fire, one with stone, and one with water. And then their enemy clans, or the enemy species, Patrynerne, they were put into a kind of a jail that is called the labyrinth or the maze. I'm not sure how they will translate it. And one of the main characters is one of these people who have escaped this labyrinth and is now going out and visiting these different kind of worlds and seeing what is going on there and stuff like that. And when you are going to a world, you will follow the people that is in that world too. So you meet in every new book, if you're reading it in English, there will be in every new book you will meet new characters, but there are some characters that will go through the books and a lot of characters that doesn't. Some won't make it simply, and some we will just not hear from again. I haven't read the last of the books again, so I cannot remember all of the details. But anyways, I really love this series. It might sound like it's just about fantasy, but to me, I get a lot of things, thoughts about what has value, true value, and how do we deal with different cultures, and are there some cultures that are better than others, and can we learn from each other? But also deeper stuff like meaning of life, what would you die for, what would you live for, how would you spend your life, and if you find yourself on the wrong side of a matter, are you willing to change, and how difficult can it be? And yeah, other than that, there are love stories, friendship stories, and there are a lot of good things in these books. I really love these books, and I really hope I'm not the only one out there. I can't be. They translated them to Danish, so there must be other ones that like these. The authors has also written the Dragonlance series. I have not been reading those, and maybe that is a mistake because I think more people know of those, but I don't know. I think this is such a brilliant series. And even if you are a Christian and are thinking, I'm not sure with all of the magic and stuff, well, if you don't want to read with any magic in it, don't read it. But there is just question about when is someone a god, and if you are like an atheist and encounter something that you can't explain, how do you deal with that? Especially some of the later books are really diving into how do you explain things that you can't explain if there is not a god or something higher than yourself. Some of these, that is not a spoiler because they tell that they tell that from the get-go, but they believe themselves to be gods because they have a lot of power. And is that okay to get treated like a god and to assume that you are a god? And then they encounter some people that believe in one god and they can't understand this concept. I do think no matter if you are a Christian or an atheist or something else, that you will be able to get a lot of good thoughts. Sorry, it's raining now. You'll get a lot of good thoughts from this, but yeah. I hope that might be inspiring, or at least fun to hear about. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear me when it's raining. If you can't, I will just cut this video short right here, and then I will go to some time lapse of the garden. It is raining so much that I will just show you how much it's raining, and then I will probably cut this video short and show you some garden footage. because it is getting cold and very windy, and yeah. But it sounds so cozy when it's raining, so I hope that you like this. But you see, it's not that bad, but it's very cozy.
Bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here,
It's good.
the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. You and me
So this was it for this time. Have a very nice day and God bless you. Bye.